I'm the chairman for the Woodtail Community Development Committee meeting. And with that, I will kindly ask the secretary to do a roll call.
Yes. Mr. Babowis.
Here.
Mr. Ochoa.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Ms. Zatko.
Here.
Mr. Woods.
Here.
And Mr. Shemanik is absent, as is Mr. Damasco. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we have a quorum. The first order of business is we need to approve the meetings, the minutes from the meeting on 15 November 2021. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of November 15th, 2021.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved? Okay. With that, I would like to ask Maria to facilitate the rest of this meeting.
Okay, we're going to start this evening. There's two public hearings that the the commission will hear tonight. The first public hearing is case number CDC 2021-0005. For the public hearings before this body, all testimony will be given under oath. And at the hearing, there will be an opportunity for the public to offer testimony and to comment. Following the public hearing, the CDC's deliberations will be open to the public in the sense that everyone present is invited to listen and to watch the deliberations. The public, however, does not speak during the deliberations of this body. Staff will provide a general description of the proposal, followed by their analysis of each application. And the applicant for both hearings before us this evening will be asked to give specific evidence to demonstrate that the proposal meets the standards of approval for each request. In both public hearings, the burden is on the applicant to prove the case. With respect to any others who wish to speak, you may give an opinion or present specific evidence as to why you believe the application meets or fails to meet the standards for the request so that the CDC can consider your testimony. Finally, we strictly adhere to the schedule prepared for tonight's hearing. Those who wish to submit evidence and testimony will be afforded sufficient time within which to do so. Whether you're a member of the public wishing to make a statement for the record or a witness testifying on behalf of an applicant, everyone will be placed under oath, and you will then begin stating your name and address for our secretary who will be placing you under oath. You will be subject to questions by the Community Development Commission and for potential cross-examination by either of the applicants. To allow as many people as possible to be heard this evening, we would ask that anyone who comments limit their commentary to 5 minutes. If additional time is needed, the hearing will be continued until the next available hearing date. Those are the general rules. With that, I now call, on behalf of the CDC, tonight's first matter to public hearing, CDC-2021-05. This case involves a request for a special use and major site plan review to permit the operation of a professional office for a management company. The subject property is located at 238 East Irving Park Road, suite number 103. The zoning application has been filed by Woodtail Station LLC, which is the owner of the property. We'll start first with a recitation of staff relative to whether notice of the hearing was published and whether you have the certificate of publication from the newspaper.
Would you raise your right hand, state your name and address, please?
Gosha Pocheha, 404 North Woodtail, Illinois.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. The notice was published in Daily Herald on December 3rd. We also send letters to property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, and a sign was posted at the subject property, all meeting the code requirements.
Thank you. Now, for this first public hearing, is there a representative of the applicant present this evening? Yes. Sir, if you could approach the podium and please allow yourself to be placed under oath by our secretary, stating your name and your address and your affiliation with the applicant, if you could.
Yeah, James Wright. I'm with.
Your right hand, please. Your name and address.
James Wright, 238 East Irving Park Road in Woodtail.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Now, sir, if you would like to present the facts in support of the application that you filed, please do so.
Yes, so our office moved from Rolling Meadows to Wooddale. I'm with Right Management LLC, and we are the management company for the Wooddale Station Condominium Association. We own about 19 of the condominium units in the building, as well as the first floor commercial space. And with the space being empty and our prior address being sold, we moved into the commercial space that we own. It is a 3-person office, very simple, 3 desks, computers, typical office equipment, filing equipment, and we have an on-site presence to manage and assist any condominium owner or renter in the building that would need property management assistance. We take up very little parking. We don't impede the parking of the hair salon there, even the busiest time of the year is like right now. And I don't believe that we have anything that would be of a detriment to any of the neighboring properties.
And I assume, sir, that your application also set forth the requisite findings of fact for approval this evening?
It did. Other people in our office submitted that form. I believe that was last week or 2 weeks ago, along with all fees that were due.
Okay, very good. Do any members of the Community Development Commission have any questions for the applicant's representative this evening? Okay, hearing none. Does staff have any information that you would like to provide in this matter?
Yes, thank you. I'll just provide a sort of a brief overview. What we're seeing right now in front of us is just a location map, general location. We are at 238 East Irving Park Road. This is on the south side of East Irving Park. Then our zoning map, the subject property is Zone TCB, which is Town Center Business District. The reason for our meeting today is the request to operate a professional office in the TCB zoning district is a permitted use as a special use. That's why the petitioners have submitted this application, because they would like to seek permission under the special use provisions to operate a professional office for a management company. This is just an overview. This is the actual existing building. The site itself is about 1 acre. The building is 6 stories high. It's a commercial building with commercial spaces on the ground floor, and then we have 5 stories of residential units on the top. There's a total of 30 residential units. The actual project was approved as part of a planned unit development. This was phase 1 back in 2005. So obviously this was prior to the recession. Since then, the PUD has been modified. I think originally there were 3 buildings were supposed to be built. Only one of them, this was the first one that was built. To the east of the subject property is the memory care, which then became the next phase of the project, which looks a little bit different. But ultimately, there is a planned unit development that has been approved for this property. Existing condition, this is just a site plan, platter survey. We have the building surrounded by parking on 3 sides. There is also underground parking that is servicing the residential units. In terms of compliance with the comprehensive plan, the property is designated as retail commercial in the future land use plan of our comprehensive plan. We do find that it is consistent with the proposed use. It actually helps the city achieve goal 4, objective 2, to keep Woodtail diverse by providing different types of services, businesses that would serve the residents and, residents and also anyone from the public. Then we move on to compliance with the UDO, with our zoning ordinance. The allowable uses, as I mentioned, this requires a special use approval under the TCB zoning district. I did want to mention that in the applicant's narrative, I think it was mentioned, that particular space used to actually be occupied by an office. That was approved as a temporary basis. Our municipal code does allow office for a real estate developer, or let's say once the building was still under construction, all the units were being leased. And that was approved a few years ago as a temporary basis. But right now, the applicant is specifically applying for a permanent solution, which would be for a professional office. In terms of lot development standards, no changes are being proposed. As I mentioned, this is a planned unit development that was approved in 2005, and no other changes. The planned unit development already took in consideration having the commercial component on the ground floor, so that is being consistent. In terms of the comments, we only received one comment from the public. I believe it was one of the residents of the building. He just wanted to ask about the process, how it works, and he did say that he was in support of the applicant's request for the special use. So as a summary for the recommendation, city staff does recommend that the CDC recommend approval of the special use, as we find it is consistent with the comprehensive plan with the UDO, and it meets the standards for approval. Thank you.
At this time, does any member of the Community Development Commission have any questions for staff? Mr. Woods?
Go try. Now, if they move in there, being in special use, see they outgrow that space and leave, nothing else can go back in there the same, correct? They would have to reapply for a special use. Someone else.
That is an excellent question, and I would have to check the code. So usually if there's change in ownership of the business, I believe under the proposed changes in our code, they would have to go through a special use.
Can we check on that?
I apologize. We are currently working on a rewrite of our zoning ordinance, and I don't have it clear in my head exactly which direction we're going, so I apologize. But that is definitely something we can check on, yes.
Is there any other question from any member of this body? Is there any member of the general public in attendance this evening who would like to make a comment or ask a question of the applicant in this application process?
Sir, could you spell your last name for me?
WRIGHT.
Thank you.
And as the representative of the applicant, do you have any additional comment you'd like to make now that you've heard from our city planner?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
If no members of the CDC have any other questions and there is no additional testimony, is there a motion to close the public hearing for case number CDC 2021-05?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Madam Clerk, could you call for a voice vote?
Yes. Mr. Babowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Ochoa,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Zadko,
Yes.
and Mr. Woods.
Yes.
Motion carries.
At this time, now that the public hearing on this application has been closed, the CDC proceeds to deliberation of the merits of this request. Is there any member of the CDC who has any questions or comments prior to moving forward with a vote on this matter?
Well, the only comment I would make is I'd like to see what GOSHA finds before we actually even vote on this.
Would that be a motion to continue this matter to the
Correct.
next?
Yes.
How would that determine, what we're trying to find out is whether if they outgrow themselves.
He's applying for the special use, but if he were to leave, can someone else use that special use? And they shouldn't be able to.
In that case, sir, I would suggest one of two options. The first option is that this panel could continue the vote on this matter to the next meeting of the CDC. Alternatively, if there was a motion to approve the application for zoning, it could be predicated on a condition that the special use be dedicated to the current applicant, and in the event of a change in ownership, the new owner would have to reapply.
I'd be okay
And
with
that way, it would fit within, I think that would probably fit within the CDC's new guidelines that it's coming up with. So would that satisfy you?
That would satisfy me.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay. The motion that's being recommended for you this evening is contained within the staff memo at page 7, and it is as follows. Based on the submitted petition and the testimony presented, the proposed special use and major site plan review meets the standards of approval and is consistent with the UDO and comprehensive plan, and therefore, whoever the movement is, moves that the Community Development Commission adopt the findings of fact included within the staff memo dated December 20, 2021, as the findings of the Community Development Commission and recommend to the City Council approval of the special use and major site plan review to operate a professional office for a management company at 238 East Irving Park Road, Suite number 103, in case number CDC 2021-05. And I would add that it be conditioned on the special use permit being granted to the applicant, and in the event of a change in applicant ownership, the new owner would have to reapply.
Correct.
Okay. Is there someone who would make that motion?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. A roll call.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Babowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Ochoa.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Zadko.
Yes.
Mr. Woods.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, this motion passes, and this matter will now proceed to the city's Planning, Zoning, and Building Committee for further consideration. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I will call tonight's second matter to order. That is CDC 2021-03. This case involves a request for a rezoning, a map amendment, upon annexation from R1 Estate Residential to I1 Light Industrial, as well as a request for special use for a planned development, preliminary plan, and preliminary major site plan review, and for approval of a preliminary plat of subdivision to annex and redevelop properties generally located to the southwest of Illinois Route 83, which is also known as Bussey Road, and Bryn Mawr Avenue. TDC Logistics Company, LLC, is requesting this relief upon annexation on behalf of CH Realty, 9-TDC 1, Chicago Woodtail 3 LP, which is the property owner. Again, because this is a new public hearing, I would ask that our staff be sworn in for the purposes of this public hearing, and ask that Ms. Pacheca give information relative to notice of this hearing.
Would you raise your right hand, please? State your name and address.
Gosha Pacheca, 404 North Wooddale Road, Wooddale, Illinois.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Thank you. Yes, similarly to the prior petition, the public hearing notice for this meeting was published in Daily Herald on December 3rd. We also sent out notices to property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, and we posted 2 signs at the subject property due to its size. So we had one on the north and one on the south side. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask if there's a representative of the applicant this evening to make a presentation relative to the application. And sir, if you could approach the podium and provide our secretary your name and address and affiliation with the applicant, that'd be a good way to start.
Raise your right hand, please. State your name and address.
My name is Marshall Huberty. I'm at 200 West Madison, Chicago, Illinois.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
If it helps you, it's a little easier for us all to hear you without the mask.
Yes.
You're far enough away.
Yes, Marshall Huberty.
Could you spell your last name?
Would you spell that, please?
Yes, Huberty.
Thank you.
Okay, if you'd like to take the floor and talk to the CDC and the members of the public here tonight about the application and what relief you're seeking.
All right. Again, thank you for having us. Thank you for your time and consideration for this project. I'm going to just give a basic project overview, share about the site plan, the review, our ask, and ultimately some details on the project, and open up the floor for questions. Pardon me. So again, my name is Marshall Huberty. I'm with Transwestern Development Company. Transwestern is a diversified national real estate developer with expertise in all property types. We specifically sit on the logistics team within Transwestern and specialize in industrial development and investment in state-of-the-art warehousing, distribution, and manufacturing facilities. Our team leads industrial development services for the Midwest, and we have delivered approximately 4.5 million square feet over the last 5 years between speculative and build-to-suit projects. and we have listed some of our projects and partners we've worked with in the past. A few representative projects are our 159,000 square foot warehouse on Washington Street. That was our first Woodtail project in the area. And then our 301,000 square foot Nippon build-to-suit project, both here in the Woodtail community. So at the end of August of this year, Transwestern closed on 32 unincorporated residential properties outlined on the screen in red. And then in December of 2020, TDC and the Woodtail Park District entered into a land swap agreement, which will grant TDC title to the park in May of 2022. The property is located near the city's primary industrial base, south of Illinois 390, and is bordered by industrial properties to the north and to the west. To the east of the property is Bussey Road, and to the south are additional unincorporated residential lots. So the property is currently improved with the aforementioned 32 residential homes, which were primarily constructed before 1980. The lots are currently in unincorporated DuPage County, and water and sewer are provided individually by private well and septic systems. The property comprises approximately 23.8 acres in total, inclusive of the proposed vacated portions of North and Pine Street, as well as all of Mohawk Park. So we are proposing the voluntary annexation into Woodtail for the city's benefit, as the project will greatly enhance the use of the site and add value to the local economy through new taxable revenues and job opportunities. So we try to look at our projects in the context of market conditions, and due to the current economic climate, the growth of e-commerce and the ongoing evolution of supply chain and logistics has created significant demand for modern warehouse space. Vacancy rates across the entire Chicago market sit at 3%, which is a historic low, and the project has been designed to accommodate the continued demand for modern and efficient warehouse space among small to mid-sized tenants that make up the core of the O'Hare submarket. O'Hare's vacancy has dropped even further to 1.6%, a result of the industrial space and continued demand coupled with a land-constrained submarket. This slide we included to address the goals and objectives of the 2018 Woodtail Comprehensive Plan. The plan provides a future land use map and is shown at the center of this slide. The red box reflects the location of the project. And as you can see, the purple striped area of the future land use map is designated as industrial or business park. Our proposed project is consistent with and meets the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. So this project will consist of two warehouse facilities, one being 183,000 square feet and the second being 217,000 square feet. They will be under construction simultaneously. Both buildings have been designed to be consistent with the recent developments in the city, making use of precast panel walls, steel, glass, and extensive landscaping throughout to create high image frontage along Route 83. All truck and passenger traffic will utilize Bryn Mawr Avenue. And you will notice there is one emergency access drive off of Pine, though we expect to use that for emergency uses only. So the plan can accommodate several small to mid-sized tenants and includes a 360-degree access for the western building and a full truck turnaround on the eastern building. We plan to commence demolition in February or as late as early March. And then due to material supply, construction is anticipated to be stretched beyond our standard 9 to 12-month timeline of construction. So completion of the building is projected out to October of 2023 to accommodate the state of the market. So this slide features elevations which depict what the facade design will look like. And today we have a much greater focus on high image design and amenities as a means for employee attraction and retention. Blending warehouse and office space is becoming more common as companies become more educated on ways to utilize their real estate. So this will be a very modern-looking building, good-looking building that will create employment opportunities in Woodtail. Any development we pursue, we also want to be mindful of the impact we have on adjacent properties, and per the village requirement, TDC engaged KLOA for a traffic study to provide insight into potential traffic generation from the development of the two buildings. We've taken into account vehicle and employee mobility throughout the site, and the circulation network addresses those issues. From a traffic perspective, the site is efficiently laid out with 4 ingress egress points along Bryn Mawr, 2 for passenger vehicles and 2 for trucks. The primary conclusion from the traffic study is that the development would generate a low volume of traffic during the peak hours and would have a low impact on the surrounding roadway network. The proposed access system will adequately separate passenger traffic and from truck traffic, excuse me. So in summary, the project represents a significant investment into Woodtail with an opportunity of approximately $75 million. The investment will enhance an underutilized site in a manner consistent with the future land use plan and spur further economic development through a value-add opportunity with limited impact on public services. So in closing, we want to reiterate our excitement and commitment to the project and our ask for your support in annexation and rezoning of our project. Thank you for your time, and we're looking forward to working with the city on this project.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else of your team who's making a presentation this evening?
Nope.
I see a bunch of head nods. Okay. Just for the members of the CDC and for the public at large, I want to reiterate what has been presented, and that is that this, all of your approvals or recommendation on approval is subject to annexation of the property to the city of Woodtail. And as part of the annexation of the property, the city is being asked after annexation to vacate a couple of streets. So that is all part of the plan that's before you this evening. Does any member of the Community Development Commission have any questions of the applicant? Please, sir.
Do we have where is all the stormwater going for this? I'm not seeing it all.
Defer to our engineer on that.
Sir, if you could approach the podium then to answer the question, and again, our clerk will place you under oath. So your name and address, please.
Your name and address, please, with your right hand. Would you raise your right hand? Thank you.
Brian Johnson, Pinnacle Engineering Group, 1051.
Jensen?
Johnson, Johnnson.
Thank you.
1051 East of Main Street, East Dundee, Illinois.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's a great question. As you can see in this exhibit, there's a series of dash lines right here and a series of dash lines right here, which will be an underground stormwater concrete vault that will house all the stormwater. So that'll meet DuPage County's stormwater requirements for not only volume control, but rate control as well. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from any member of the Community Development Commission? Hearing none, I would like to ask Ms. Pacheco if she has any information or testimony to provide on this application.
Thank you.
You can have a seat, sir, till we call you up to the podium again.
Oh, thank you so much. It'll be easier this way. Sorry, I'm going back in my presentation. Thank you so much. So as we've mentioned before, I just kind of want to emphasize, so the request in front of us is, there's a couple different things that we're talking about, but mainly we've got the rezoning component. So upon annexation, which will be considered by the city council, the properties are automatically zoned R1. So the request is to rezone those property from that R1 zoning to I1, which is light industrial, which is typical for that area. We also have a special use for a planned unit development, but we're talking about a preliminary plan. So the idea is that this is just a preliminary plan. It has to meet certain standards, but the applicant will have to go through this process again, including a public hearing for the final PUD. We also have a major site plan review that is required actually both for rezoning and for the special use component. And we have preliminary plat of subdivision. So that is another component that is a preliminary level at this point, and we'll have to go through a process before the final approval. So, oh, sorry, I went a little bit too fast. So general location, we're talking about northeast area of the city of Woodtail. This is currently unincorporated neighborhood in Mohawk Manor. As you may recall, directly to the north was the project that we talked about 2 years ago for Nippon Express. That was 20-some properties, I believe, that were annexed and have gone through a very similar process as we're talking about. So this is just a general location. This is looking a little bit closer. We have Wooddale on one side. Across the street from Route 83 is Bensonville. To the north directly is the property that is currently part of the city of Wooddale and Bryn Mawr, and then to the south is the remaining residential properties, and those are unincorporated at this point. This is our zoning map. The existing zoning map is shown on there, and the parcel that is outlined in yellow, this would be subject of the petition. So as I mentioned, to make it consistent with the surrounding district, where the petitioners are requesting I-1. I did want to mention that what you see highlighted kind of to the grid pattern or the hatch pattern to the left, that is our overlay district. The subject property is not proposed to be in the overlay district because when the overlay district was first established back in 2009, it really didn't, the master plan for the overlay district did not take in consideration those areas. So that's why the petitioners are requesting to be just I-1 underlining zoning without any overlay district extension. And that is also consistent with the Nippon property to the north and how it was processed. Looking at the comprehensive plan, the future land use map, this is something the applicants already showed us. I did want to emphasize that the comprehensive plan did indicate this area to eventually potentially become an industrial business park, but also we've got that hatch over here that indicated these are sites likely to experience some development, redevelopment in the future, as we're seeing in front of us today. Looking at the existing conditions, so the total area, including the park, we're a little bit over 24 acres. There are 3 parcels, 32 are residential, and one of them is the park. And we've got the 2 streets, North Streets and Pine Avenue, which are requested to be vacated as part of the plat of subdivision. This is just a survey showing the existing buildings and existing right-of-ways that will be vacated. And this is a look at the preliminary plat of subdivision. So ultimately, we are taking all of these individual properties and combining it all into one. The proposed site plan, we've seen the applicant provided an overview, but ultimately we do have 2 buildings. I do want to point out that our current zoning regulations do allow us to have 2 buildings on one zoning lot. That is something that is allowed without any special requests. The buildings do have parking surrounding on all 3 sides. The stormwater, as was explained by the engineer, will be underground. There is a total of about 375 parking spaces being proposed, so that actually exceeds our code requirements. And I did want to emphasize, so the main entrance to the site will be from Bryn Mawr. So there will be 4 curb cuts. 2 of them will serve the actual parking for vehicles, personal vehicles, and then we've got the 2 that are serving the loading docks. I did want to include just a proposed elevation. This was submitted with the original application. This is just a rendering. Obviously, there's some changes that could be coming, and I did want to emphasize this is we're only talking about preliminary at this point, so more detail typically gets submitted with the final application. One thing I wanted to emphasize, and I'll go back here, about the particular layout of the building. As you notice, the loading docks are actually on the center, on the sides. There you go, I think I can. So the loading docks are facing each other, so in a way that kind of limits their visibility from the street. And that is something that would be preferred because we don't want necessarily to have a lot of visibility when, from the public right away. And I wanted to also emphasize the landscaping. Quite extensive landscaping is being proposed. We have site perimeter landscaping that includes shade trees. We have street trees along Bryn Mawr, and also the loading docks that are stretching the inside, kind of the two buildings. There is landscaping on either side of the entrances to the loading docks to provide the further screen. I did want to mention, because the project is a planned unit development, they are able to ask for certain deviations. So these are not variations per se, but deviations from the code that usually get listed in part of the ordinance, the approval ordinance. So this allows the developer to maybe achieve a better site layout or provide some specific benefit, but then in exchange for that, they can ask for relief in certain instances from the code. There's 4 that are being requested. First of is the driveway offset. Our municipal code requires that when a new development comes in, the driveways be either directly aligned with the driveways on the opposite side of the street, or not. I believe 150 feet is the minimum required offset. In this particular case, to accommodate the 2 buildings and the parking lot, the petitioners are not able to meet the offset. This is the driveway. I apologize, that's a little bit small, but that's the driveway for the building to the north, and this is the one to the south. So they are not able to meet that. It's very similar on the other corner. There's a driveway right there, and there's one on the south. So the petitioners are seeking this as one of the deviations, and the main reason that's being given is the constraints of the site layout and being able to accommodate the size of the building and the size of the parking that's required. The second deviation is the curb cut width. This is something that you've probably seen in a lot of the industrial buildings that have come in front of the commission before. We have a standard detail for commercial and industrial driveways and access points. However, we do recognize that in certain instances, they're not wide enough of a curb cut to be able to accommodate the traffic, especially when it comes to larger vehicles. So the petitioners are seeking, I believe the actual driveway entrances to the parking lots, they meet the width at the property line, but they don't meet it at the street. And a lot of it deals with the curvature of being able to get the vehicle into the site. The ones in a center where that will service the loading docks, they are just wider to be able to accommodate the wider vehicles. And as I said, this is fairly consistent with what we've seen with other developments. We also have number 3 as a deviation, elimination of a build-to line. Once again, our municipal code is very particular. We don't have a minimum front setback requirement. We have a front build-to line, which means that the building has to be built at that build-to line. And in a lot of cases, to be able to accommodate the site layout, the natural drainage, the parking lot, that setback is not always able to be met. So that is one of the requirements in this case as well. And number 4 is elimination of a trash enclosure. So generally for commercial properties, we do want trash enclosures to be built to screen any of the dumpster. The petitioners came forth and very consistent with the prior approvals that we've had, a lot of the tenants nowadays actually use trash compactors that are attached to one of the loading docks. So it's not even an open trash trash dumpster anymore. It's all covered, it's one piece. So they're asking for elimination of that. One of the reasons that kind of speaks to it is because those loading docks are further away from the right-of-way, and they also have the landscape screening. This is kind of like the benefit or the offset that's being provided. So these are just an outline of the deviations that are being requested. In terms of the findings, we did have a number of staff do a sort of preliminary review. So we had a city engineer look at the engineering drawings. We had our traffic engineer consultants review the traffic impact study. We had public works involved, zoning, also Fire Woodtail District, a little bit of building, although there weren't really, the plans are not quite there. So no major concerns were really noted, although there are some comments that still need to be addressed before we move into final. A lot of it has to deal with engineering and getting the drawings to the level of engineering that is required. Probably the main one would be the stormwater. That's something that requires the most work, especially because there is an existing creek and wetland on the property to the south. And our engineers are kind of looking for a specific site-specific wetlands, floodplains, site-specific floodplain study to be able to determine whether that will need to impact the actual layout of the site and the parking lot. So those are the main ones, and the actual list of comments were listed in the staff memo, and we are working with the developer. We're kind of working on reviews, and we will be providing a review comment letter to them to outline a lot of these things that the staff has come through as we reviewed those originally. So in general, CD staff is recommending approval of the petition. We do find that it's consistent with the UDO and with the comprehensive plan, although we do noted some conditions. The main one is the engineering, making sure that the final plans before they're submitted, they meet the required engineering comments. Also, we note just a standard substantial conformance with the staff memo and good conditions that are listed there, and a number of the list of deviations that are being requested. And lastly, I just wanted to point in, obviously, the land swap agreement. This is something that we would be mindful of, because that's a big component of being able to develop the whole site, although we don't really have any concerns with that, because I know Park District is working with the applicant on it, but we're kind of removed from that agreement. So I just wanted to list it as a condition. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Does any member of the Community Development Commission have any questions of staff at this time? Sir? Oh, let's start with Mr. Peterson, if you don't mind.
Maybe you could clarify how and to what extent Woodtail is going to be compensated for their park property?
So we don't have city property.
There's no property involved?
No. So this
There's
is
not a park?
Okay, well, maybe I'll
Well,
let Mary. Thank you.
the park property is owned by the Woodtail Park District, not by the city. And
Okay.
so this has been a development land exchange between Woodtail Park District and the owner of the property. So whatever compensation there is, it's going to Woodtail and between the owner and the park district. The city doesn't,
Okay, I can understand
receive
the
any
city, but I'd
compensation
like
for
to
that.
know what extent, how we're being compensated, or how the park district's being
Yes, sir.
compensated.
well, relative to that doesn't, the land negotiation between the Wooddale Park District and the developer isn't really one of the zoning aspects before you this evening.
I
No.
understand that, but I'd just like to know.
Okay, I don't know if anyone with the applicant is present who could speak to that issue tonight. If you can, please approach the podium and you'll be sworn in.
Would you raise your right hand, please? State your name and address.
Sure. Darcy Fankhauser, 200 West Madison.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And would you spell your last name, please?
Sure. It is Fankhuser.
I lost you at the H.
I know.
I'm sorry.
So it's Hauser.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So our deal with the Park District is that we have agreed to, we purchased 5 properties that are adjacent to the Wooddale Park District Rec Center, and we are working through tree removal and demolition on those properties to swap that land with them to create future ball fields. So that's our deal with the Park District, and then once we have the work done on those 5 properties, that's when the land swap will actually effectuate.
Now, I have to say, the witness had a mask on. Were you able to hear? Okay, I'm so sorry. I was having issues with it myself. so.
Not a problem, not a
The
problem.
microphone.
So our deal with the Park District is we've agreed to purchase 5 properties that are adjacent to the Wooddale Park District Rec Center. So we closed on those properties at the end of August, and we are looking to demo those properties and create basically ball fields for them that they will then construct and build, more recreational space, outdoor space to be able to hold more programs.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Woods, I believe you had a question as well.
I've kind of lost my now. During construction, you said we're going to be taking up a couple of streets, correct, Pine? Is there going to be enough emergency vehicles, access for vehicles to get into the rest of Mohawk Manor while this is all going on? I'm sure the residents would like to know that.
Gotcha. I believe so. I haven't looked at the overall, I don't know if the applicant has an answer. Let me see if I can
Is there an
find-
answer from the applicant relative to ingress egress with emergency vehicles?
Are you looking
Is it-
for,
I
like,
know.
in terms of ingress and egress
Oh, they're in
throughout our
Washington.
property or outside?
No, for us.
Wait, I'm sorry, ma'am, we'll let you guys have a moment to chat.
We're trying to see what access they're going to have for the people who are still living in Mohawk Manor. While you're in the midst of your construction, streets might be closed down, and there might not be the access that they would have to Route 83. They might only be able to come in from Foster.
Right, well, that's what we're planning right now, is that with the vacation of these two roads, the throughput access straight to Bryn Mawr will be cut off. So the primary access will be from the south, from Foster.
Will residents then retain an emergency access, ingress egress, even through construction?
That's something that we can work on with our plans. One of the things that we could do is we could keep some measure of time there for a certain period of time until absolutely necessary to when it needs to be removed for construction of the actual vertical improvements.
Do you have a follow-up, sir?
No.
Any other member of the commission have a question? Okay, now it's the time for the general public. Is there any member of the general public here this evening who has any questions? And if so, please, sir, if you could approach the podium and, yeah, I'm looking right at you, sorry. If you could be sworn in for your testimony this evening.
Would you raise your right hand, state your name and address, please?
Thomas Milewski,
Could you spell that, please?
Milewski.
Thank you. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
As far as I know it.
Very good.
Thank you.
I reside on Washington Street. I have a property that's right on the line with the proposed development. Obviously, you can see that the change of the nature of the neighborhood is significant. We're not only losing a park, we're losing 50% of the access because we have an access from the north through the Pine Street, which is taken away, and now there's going to be access only to Foster, which is like, you have to do like 4 turns to get there. The biggest problem I have with this proposal is there is a residential neighborhood that's being picked piece by piece by Transwestern. There was a very similar neighborhood, similarly named Mohawk Terrace, which was about a mile north from this area, and also was bought out by developers. However, their neighborhood was an unincorporated, which is kind of an orphan situation for us because we are not represented by any city and nobody cares about our rights or destruction of our neighborhood, deterioration of quality of life, safety. There is also aspect of intimidation because all those other properties for last 3 years have been target of negotiation of Transwestern to be bought out as well. That didn't happen yet. They have contracts with some people to buy their houses. They use those contracts to keep any other developers to compete with them. So they have a kind of free hand of prolonging that as long as they want, intimidate us, decrease the quality of life in our neighborhood, so we are more inclined to agree with their proposals. Now, in Mohawk Terrace, there was also about 105 houses which this neighborhood before they chopped 1/4 and now they're chopping the 2/4, was also right above 100 houses. Now, they belonged to Bensonville proper. Bensonville said to the developers, you have to buy all of the houses together because it's inappropriate to cut up the neighborhood and build industrial building basically feet away. Well, according to their map that I see today, they are building right on the edge of my property. And I don't see any proposal explaining how they're gonna do that, because actually the line on the south is next to the creek, which is the lowest area of the neighborhood. The elevation of the rest of the area is significantly above. And I don't think they are planning to dig down. They're probably gonna put the buildings where the streets are, which is much higher than the creek and the back of my property, which gives them two options. Either they're gonna lower their lot to the level of my property, which I don't think they wanna do that, or build a wall or whatever retaining thing to put a wall right on the border with my property and all the other properties. Coming back to Mohawk Terrace, the developers did buy all the houses at once and avoided creating those issues of deterioration of quality of life for the rest of the neighborhood. That's the way it should be done because it's a residential neighborhood. I bought a house 10 years ago in a quiet, nice, safe residential neighborhood. Now I'm gonna be living feet away or inches away from a development of 400,000 square feet of distribution, warehousing and distribution operation, commercial operation with commercial traffic right behind my property. My access to the house is limited. 50% of the access is taken away. As you can see here, Pine Street, their building number 1 is on Pine Street. The Pine Street cannot exist with their proposal. They are building a building on Pine Street. It is a problem for us because we are orphans and Woodtail does not care about us. DuPage doesn't care about us. Nobody does. I guess Edison Township should, but they are such a weak, badly organized entity that nobody cares what they say. You did that to us 2 years ago. There was a big meeting because I would like to say I organized the neighborhood to come here and represent what they think about it. You had to move it from this room to the school over there because there were too many people attending. Now those people, one after another, voiced their opinion. And probably 95% of them were talking about the danger that's gonna happen on an intersection of Bryn Mawr and 83. They were all concerned about it because it was a dangerous intersection to start with. And having commercial construction right there scared everybody. Transwestern and their people promised they're not gonna touch the Bryn Mawr Avenue. The Bryn Mawr Avenue gonna be unaffected, even if it was on the border of their construction. They said they were gonna sweep it every day so it's clean. Maybe they swept it for a month. At the end of the construction, they decided not only that they're not gonna sweep it anymore, they took it off. They took the whole Bryn Mawr Avenue deep, 5-10 feet deep. They left us not with Bryn Mawr Avenue, they left us with mud pit. And residents at Bryn Mawr Avenue had no choice but go through the mud pit to reach their residence. One person, a lady that was respected, loved in the neighborhood, the great person, she worked for you people, for Woodtail Park District, went through that mud pit to the intersection, and I'm not sure that she had any experience with going through the mud pits. But unfortunately, she entered the intersection, and I'm sure her wheels were full of mud. Her car did not accelerate, and some crazy driver coming from the north hit her sideways, 80 miles per hour. Her car was moved about 100 feet south. I passed there about 15 to 20 minutes later. I saw the car. I didn't know who it was. But it was a horrific accident. The parts of the cars were all over the place. The street was closed for, I don't know, probably close to an hour. She died. You people promised us that safety of our neighborhood is priority number one. There was this fiery speech one gentleman did that he is never going to compromise on the safety of the residents. Well, if they can go from promising of sweeping the Bryn Mawr Avenue to taking it off and leaving us with the mud pit, and I don't think any of us has experience of driving off-road in the mud, they can do anything. And my property is right there. They're taking 50% of the access right now. I don't know what they're gonna do with the stream. It's there. Water from my property goes into the stream. Are they gonna eliminate the stream? I guess they're gonna put it underground. I wanna know if they wanna encroach on my property, because I'm not fine with that. And I don't know how they're gonna develop their property all the way to the border, because the elevation is gonna be different. Because they're gonna put 44-foot tall, huge building, just, I don't know, 50 feet from my property. That's gonna be towering, that's gonna be changing the nature of the neighborhood, lowering my property value, because it's not gonna be in a quiet, residential, safe neighborhood. It's gonna be next to the commercial traffic. Why do you people do that to us? You're supposed to buy the whole neighborhood and then do with it whatever you want. You're not supposed to take it like this and intimidate us into selling the properties to you. That's bullying. That's illegal bullying that you do. And you've done it since day one. I mean, you told us if you don't sell it to us, we're gonna build around you. Or we're gonna use public domain to create something and we're gonna take the property from you. We are middle class, maybe even lower middle class people with no political representation because we are unincorporated. Does that mean we should have lower rights? Does that mean you can do with us whatever you want? I don't think so. But the problem is there is no political or legal force that stops you. You did it to us 2 years ago. You caused Sue's death. I don't know what you're gonna do now, but I'm scared. I don't know if the crane is gonna fall on my property. I don't know if their traffic is gonna run over my kids, you know? 2 years ago, they were promising there was not gonna be any traffic to the construction site through Pine Avenue. Well, through the last 2 years, I don't know about the rest of the residents, but I've seen tens of vehicles going through there. There were a lot of vehicles going through there. They don't keep their word.
Okay, I think at this point, the one question that we've heard from Mr. Malevsky, perhaps the member of the applicant could answer is, do you have a plan to develop the property with an elevation change? If there's someone who could address that question, if you don't mind, sir, I think that you asked that question, and
Yes, I did.
yeah, let's get the answer for you if we can. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. As you can see from the overall site plan, you know, whenever we approach these projects, we always take surrounding grades into consideration. And part of that is drainage. So absolutely, he's correct. There is a swale that drains from this area to the culvert under Route 83. So when we develop the grading plan, there's obviously mass grading that occurs. So you can get a nice level pad for each one of these buildings. And then at the property line, there's a significant amount of transitional grading that occurs. So you can blend all your proposed grades back into the existing drainage. So along that property line, especially this corridor through here, while you see such openings of green space, is there's a swale through here that takes a lot of this offsite drainage even from his lot and through here, and routes it to the existing point at 83. So all that is currently being reviewed by the city's municipal engineer as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any, you, sir, with the baseball cap on? If you have, please approach the podium if you would like to make a statement.
Sure.
We would ask, in case there are other members present who want to speak tonight, if you could try to limit your comments to 5 minutes, but if you have a question, then we'd like to get it answered.
Your name and address, please,
Jason DeBello, 17W040 Washington Street.
and would you spell your last name, please?
D-E, B as in boy, E-L-L-O.
Okay. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Who's the entity? Is it community development that's going to be looking at the drainage that he was just speaking about
Yes, it will be our city engineer.
for Wooddale?
That is correct.
Is there going to be any commingling or input from DuPage County?
So the city of Wooddale adopted the DuPage County stormwater ordinance. So it's actually in our code. So part of the requirements, they have to meet the DuPage County ordinance and also the local city of Wooddale requirements. Yes.
Okay. My property lies right here. And that swale, that drainage ditch for runoff water, actually goes through my property, not here. It goes through my property up to the corner of my property. I just want to make sure that when you're looking at this, that I'm not going to get people pointing back and forth from DuPage County saying, okay, everything's done, I have an issue, now it's your problem with DuPage County. I would like to see that you guys are commingled together or talking about it, whoever those entities may be. And the water runoff is obviously a serious issue. The grade elevation is quite different back there. At least from the front of my, the rear of my existing home grade to that ditch is about a 14-foot drop. So it's quite a bit. But that would be my concern is water runoff. I know that they talked about putting something underground here for water, stormwater, but I'm more concerned about what's affecting obviously our properties and what it's gonna do to it. I know that it is stated a wetland there. I don't know if it can, you know, you can just get rid of the wetland. I'm sure there's some communication between you and DuPage County, so I just wanna make sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeBello. Is there any other member of the public here present this evening? Yes, ma'am, you in the back there with your hand up. If you could approach the podium and state your name and address and be sworn in by our clerk.
Hello.
Your name and address, please.
Julia Malik, 17W048 Center Street.
M-A-L-E-K?
M-A-L-E-C.
E-C, thank you. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Always.
Always.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a few comments. I've been sitting there and my ire's been getting up. It's so easy to sit there and say, what a beautiful thing, what a wonderful thing for the city of Wooddale, while you're destroying our lives. Nobody has taken into consideration our neighborhood. And when I hear somebody say an underutilized area, that was not underutilized. There were many families that lived there. Our kids, I've lived in this area over 30 years. My kids went to Wooddale schools. I paid taxes to the Wooddale Park District. I did business in Wooddale. You know, just because I don't know, I didn't pay property taxes to you, it's no reason I wasn't a valuable member of this community. And it upsets me that Wooddale is not protecting us in any way. How can you have emergency egress when they're gonna build a land, even not just during the demolition, but after the demolition? They said they're not gonna be done until 2023. And we have one path into our houses? How are the buses gonna turn around? Have you guys ever seen our streets? There is nowhere for the buses that pick up the school kids to turn around if they cut that street off. Nobody has been looking at that. I worry about the stormwater containment. I'm not an engineer. I don't know, but we had problems with our wells before in the water reserve. We're at wells and septic. Is that going to impact us in any way? I don't know. Has anybody thought of that or looked at that? Will they look at that? I don't know. I'm just very upset. And you know, one of my neighbors and I came to Wooddale, to the community development office downstairs last month to ask if they had any information on this. No, we don't know what you're talking about. When I pulled up, I found on your website stuff from November 10th that you've been working with these people on this project for a long time. Maybe you were gun shy from the first time when you released the plans to us ahead of time, but that's no way to treat us. You know, let us know what's happening. You know, we got letters in the mail about the TIF district. Why couldn't you send us something about this? You know, what they were planning on doing. Were you afraid we would come and, I mean, what can we do? Nothing, obviously. I wish I could ask you questions. I know I can't, and I know I can't get any answers. But, you know, I just want you to think about that. These are a lot of lives you're affecting. We're still there. And they won't be done till 2023. And there's a lot of kids in our area. You know, oh, plus the fact that we have seen more traffic going down our streets, and Wooddale is supposed to be monitoring that to make sure trucks aren't going down our streets. I followed a truck turning off of 83 onto Foster, and I followed him and took pictures. He went all the way down to Center and went to the businesses back there. Our roads won't handle that. You know, come winter, if we get the expansion and the freeze, you know, we're gonna have a hard time driving down there. They're gonna have a hard time plowing it. I mean, you gotta think about stuff like that. Does anybody monitor that? Is anybody going to monitor that? And when they talk about the traffic impact, yeah, at peak times you won't have traffic. If you talk to the people that lived on Bryn Mawr, no, it was all at night when they were trying to sleep. That's when the traffic was there. I just wanted to have my say, I guess. And I'd like you to think about some of those things I talked about, and maybe you can come up with something to keep our ingress and outgress for us for a while. Because like I said, 2023, that's a long time. Long, long time. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malik, for your comments. They will be part of the record of this. Is there any other member of the public who would like to present commentary or testimony this evening, or having any questions for the city or the developer? Okay. If you approach the podium, you have to be sworn in.
I didn't come here to say anything, but I thought it might be helpful.
You're invited to speak if you'd like. You just have to be sworn under oath.
Your name, raise your right hand, please, and state your name and address.
Carrie Savickas.
Would you spell that?
Savickas.
Thank you. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you
Yes.
God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So I came to this meeting because I have some history in that neighborhood. I grew up in that neighborhood, and I also have some history on the property at 238 that you guys were dealing with. So it was just like, oh my goodness, I have a business in Woodtail. So I'm like, oh, I have to come to this meeting. Never really realized all that's going on over there. But I thought of something because I lived in the neighborhood
that I thought I would just bring up that might be helpful. Again, I'm not involved in any of this. I believe the streets that you guys are talking about, none of those streets go to 83. That's what I think, okay? So I fully get what this lady is saying. I can imagine, because I grew up in the neighborhood, for the buses coming in. The streets that are left, yes, that is true. There really isn't, you know, because you go down and the dead ends in the street. So my thought is, this is just a thought. Again, I'm not involved here. Maybe is there a way that you guys can have one of the streets that are left go back out onto 83? You know, give them that access. So that was just my thought, because that is a true statement for what they're saying. So I hope it's helpful. I didn't want to get this is really, really something for me as memories. That's all.
Well,
Sorry.
thank you, Ms. Sabikis, for your commentary tonight. Any other member of the public? This is your last opportunity tonight. Okay. Do any members of the Community Development Commission have any comment, now that you've heard any the commentary from the public, that you have any questions at all for the applicant or for staff?
Yeah.
Mr. Woods?
Gosha, I think we're gonna have to look at something for emergency vehicles and the school buses. I mean, those school buses cannot be turned around in a little area. They're big buses, so we're gonna have to work something out there. I mean, they have to figure some way. I mean, I'm sure you guys, if it were your kids, you'd want the same. So for the fire department, school buses, we gotta figure a way in and out.
One thing I would note, the fire district has reviewed the proposal and they didn't have any concerns, but I don't know if they really looked at the site in totality. So that is something we can definitely reach out to them again. The school district, we have not received any comments. So that's something.
So what happens if you have a car accident on that street just off of Foster and there's a fire in one of those houses back there? How's that fire engine getting there?
Yeah. No, that's definitely something to consider.
I think your question is valid for, and Gosha can double back to the Fire Protection District and to the school district too, Gosha.
Yes.
To both. Any other? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just, Barsha, sorry for my voice, but I agree with Mr. Woods. You know, after hearing everything from the people and everything else, access has to be available. No, you know, ifs, ands, or buts. Has to be black and white. And that's my opinion.
Anyone? Mr. Peterson?
I think we ought to table this whole thing until we have more discussion on.
Well, at this point in time, you would be moving to continue the public hearing to allow for additional testimony.
Right.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion?
A motion to continue?
We have, right now, it's just a motion to continue the public hearing.
As in to continue it another day?
Correct. To the next available date in January.
And could we get that, the right of the road that we were talking about, have the fire department look at it, school district look at it?
Possibly, yeah, we could reach out for
And
comments.
I think we need to have that. I mean, otherwise, I won't vote either way.
I think we can continue to move this forward with conditions that will make the applicant provide us considering the concerns of the residents.
Excuse me, well, I don't think we've heard all the complaints. And I think we owe it to the public to do that.
Okay.
We got a small amount of people here
Well, people are
representing
given
that
the fair
neighborhood.
notice to be here. But we do have a hand in the audience. Maybe we can continue to listen to the complaints and concerns.
I just want to make one comment, that's all.
If you are going to, I'm sorry, you do have to, because we broadcast this, and we can't see your smiling face in the corner. So.
Smile that off.
Well, then, for all your residential friends, they want to see it.
It's just a comment for the review for the emergency egress there. I know that you said that or somebody said that the Wooddale Fire Department signed off and looked at it. I would say that maybe they need to review the last actual fire that was in there, where all the towns had to come in there. There's 17 fire trucks in there. We don't have fire hydrants. They have to bring the water in. So where are they all gonna go?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Consider that.
Okay, we, at this moment in time, we have a motion without a second, and we have a suggestion from the chairman. So the motion is to table a public hearing to the January date. However, the chairman also has consideration that if you're concerned, we close the public hearing, move to discussion, and suggest conditions on approval. So we were in an either or.
I'll second Mr. Peterson's motion.
Okay.
Okay, the motion is to continue to the January meeting, and Mr. Peterson, you made that motion?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Seconded.
Thank you.
There is
And
no,
a roll?
well, there's no discussion on a motion to continue, so Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Okay. 1 minute, please. Mr. Babowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Ochoa?
No.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Zatko?
Yes.
And Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the motion to continue carries, and at this moment in time, for all the members of the public present and for the applicant, rather than close the public hearing, it'll be continued to January
I believe the date is the 17th.
January 17. And because the public hearing has been continued, this matter will not proceed to discussion for a vote this evening. So I think at this point in time, I return the meeting to you, sir.
Okay, so with that, I think we will adjourn.
Yes, there's a motion.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We already voted on it. We did.
Motion to adjourn, Chair.
There was a motion to adjourn made. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good. Did you do a voice vote or roll call?
We did
A voice vote?
no, we didn't do a voice vote. We did, you want to do a voice vote?
On the motion to adjourn, I don't know how you just
No,
motion second?
everyone is in agreement, so the motion carries.
Okay. The meeting stands adjourned.
Let's just play quarterback.